If there's one thing our body's good at, it is ego lifting. Well, I was going to say adapting to training, but I guess we're pretty good at both. But basically, your training style will dictate whatever muscle fibers you end up with, and these kind of attribute to your base stats if you think about it, which is kind of cool. It's kind of like building your character based on the training that you're doing. But they also offer a few interesting perks, which we'll get into. And at the end, there's actually a way you can utilize the knowledge here to actually stay leaner for a lot less work. So we'll get into that. My name's Shay, I'm a nutritionist and an international level athlete, and let's get into the actual fibers. Like what do these actually mean? Okay, so starting off with the type 1 fibers. People call this the slow twitch, the long running muscles, and for good reason, right? They're also called oxidative fibers, but basically the main difference here is they have so many blood vessels going into them, these capillaries, which is why these muscle fibers are like a rich red from all that blood. And basically this oxygen allows them to get the most energy out of the actual food, your fats and your sugars going in there. And that's basically the core of the aerobic versus anaerobic capacity for these muscles. So aerobic ones like these type 1s, they, as I said, get the most out of the food, but it just takes them a while. They're a bit smaller, but they're packed with mitochondria, which will process this energy effectively with the use of that oxygen coming in from the blood. But they're a bit slower to do it. There's this thing called myosin ATPase, which regulates how quickly that ATP, that energy, can be used. And here it's not going on that quickly. It's like, okay, just give me a minute. All the energy's coming. I just need a minute, okay? They're not that quick, but you know, as far as exercise goes, like that long stuff, dude, they're so good. They get the most energy out and allows us just to keep going, dude. I'm gonna skip type 2As because we'll come back to those, but type 2Bs or type 2X, these are really funky. They're a little less common and they're really used in short bouts of like really powerful stuff. Naturally, they're actually white, they're pale. Some call them the Irish fibers, but that's not true. Basically, because they don't have any blood vessels going in, they don't use oxygen to metabolize the fuel. They have all this glycogen stored in there, all these fuels stored in there, and it's like, okay, we need fuel, damn, you got it already. We're not using oxygen here, we're just splitting up the glycogen, the glucose, into pyruvate, which is just glycolysis, and it doesn't release that much energy, it releases a crumb, but the thing is it can just do it so quickly. And remember what I said before, the myosin ATPase, it allows the energy just to be used up so quickly, dude. So that's what these are used for. They're so inefficient, but they are fast, okay? It's like that, it's like this meme, it's kind of what it reminds me of. They also use the creatine phosphate pathway, which is another pathway which just allows like short bursts of energy, but you get it so quickly, dude. It's kind of like instead of planting the seeds to get more food, you just start eating the seeds. It's like you're getting a bit and you have it now, but if you're a bit more patient, you can get a lot more later with use of oxygen, but that's what these are good for, right? Basically, just think about these as incinerating whatever fuels they have so quickly. That's the bottom line there. If you are enjoying, please be sure to drop a like and consider subscribing. And if you do, you will look like that. Like, there is no doubt. Now onto type 2As. Now, interestingly, these are the biggest of the bunch, and a lot of animals, the type 2Xs are the biggest ones. But for us, the type 2As are, okay? I don't know why, but it might have something to do with the fact that if you take type 1s and your type 2Xs, these are kind of in between, so they have the components from both. They have a lot of stored glycogen like the type 2Xs, they have a lot of mitochondria like the type 1s, and they kind of do a bit of both, so they're good at that intermediate level stuff. So think like weightlifting, maybe a longer set, anything maybe, I don't know, 30 to 10 minutes, that's kind of the range people will say. And the advantage thing here is they just have so much work capacity because they can pull from those anaerobic pathways to get that quick energy, but they can also just hold on and use some oxygen to get more energy out. So this is typically what bodybuilders are going to be training, because we're training longer sets. They're not just like a quick 5-second set like you would with the type 2Xs, but you're also growing them a lot bigger because they are the biggest fiber, which is, what bodybuilders are after. So let's get into like, what do we actually do as far as training goes? So basically you can convert these fibers to pretty much wherever you want. It just takes a while, okay? So it's like, okay, we're doing a lot of long distance running. So now we're getting all these blood vessels coming into the cells. We're building more mitochondria. What do you know? Now we have more type 1s. It's a gradual thing. And it's like, okay, well, I'm doing a lot of weightlifting. I need, a bit more glycogen in the cell. I need some blood vessels, but also a bit of anaerobic capacity. What do you know? Now we have type 2As. And this is you might expect a lot, there aren't like hard and fast rules here. We have 3 types, but if you're transitioning between things, which is, you know, just always the case with training, there's a lot of things that are kind of in between. It's like, okay, this is a type 1 fiber, but it looks a little bit bigger and it has a little bit of glycogen in there, but it's still kind of a type 1. So just keep that in mind. But if you consider the fiber types and look at the training as well, think about running. It's like, okay, they end up with the type 1s. Naturally, they're a lot thinner, these runners. Type 2Bs, like a sprinter, it's like they have some musculature, they're not massive, but they're pretty lean, which we'll get into. And if you look at, you know, a bodybuilder, it's like, okay, they have good work capacity, a lot of size because they're bigger, and it's because they're training that, you know, 10 to minute-long sets, you know. That's kind of what it's doing. We're not doing that fast burst as we would with like a sprint, so naturally they end up with the type 2As. So it's really just considering the time and the style of training, and that's going to dictate what you actually end up with, and therefore what perks you end up with. It's like, okay, am I like a work capacity beast? Am I an endurance beast? Am I a power beast? It's really just what you train for, and your muscles will adapt, which is pretty cool. So a really cool point here is energy, right? So our type 1s are getting all the energy out of the fuel. It just takes a while, as I said, but if you compare that to fully anaerobic type 2Bs, right, they only get 5% of the total fuel that you would from sugar. So the rest is kind of just going nowhere, which means, yes, we're getting it quickly, but they're so inefficient, which theoretically, and I believe this to be very true with myself as well, the more like sprinting stuff you do and like high intensity, like bursts of exercise, it just shreds energy, dude. Like you could go for a 10K run, you're gonna burn quite a bit of energy, but you could probably almost hit that marker as far as calorie output goes with a lot less volume, but just explosive stuff. Now, naturally, you can't do high intensity explosive stuff all the time just for injury risk, but it's something to keep in mind. So what does this all really mean? Well, if we're talking about the energy, I would say if you're trying to stay lean, you could actually just throw in some explosive stuff at the start of the workout so you're fresh, you're not risking any injury. Interestingly, this is what a lot of Olympic weightlifters do. These guys are pretty jacked. They've probably got some good type 2Bs, a lot of them, as well as some type 2As. And if you notice what they're doing with bodybuilding, their bodybuilding routine is quite interesting because they're doing these like really compound explosive movements. Like take like a row, they're not doing like a pure slow row. They're just ripping it with their whole body, dude, poor form, but like it's a different exercise almost. And what does this mean? Well, if you look at most of these weightlifters, they're shredded, and I attribute a lot of that to the fact that they're just using so many type 2Bs that it's pretty much impossible to gain weight. I see that a lot with sprinters. I'm a bit of a sprinter myself. Everyone's lean, everyone eats a lot, but it's like, what's happening here? We don't train a crazy amount of volume, but this is why, okay? And if we think about adaptations as well, this is why doing like a long distance run might not be the best for maybe like a sprinter or even a bodybuilder, because it is kind of converting some of these fibers to type 1s, but this isn't going to happen on one run a week, okay? I would not be too scared of that. It's just something to keep in mind. You're always in a state of conversion, and whatever you're doing more of, you're just going to convert towards that. But if you're doing like half sprinting, half long distance running, I don't know what your body would do. It'd be somewhere in between, right? Which might be problematic, because if you're a distance runner but you have a lot of type 2Bs, they're not helping you at all if you go for a long run, right? So it's up to you whether you specialize, but no matter what you try and do, your body's building more mitochondria, more myonuclei, it's becoming better. So I wouldn't stress about too much. It's like, oh, I'm training too much this fiber. Just get in there, just train, just feel good, and I'm sure you'll be better. It's just like, there's no two ways around it. Don't overthink this. But it is pretty cool just to think of the fact that you are really tailoring your body towards like a strong suit if you want. It's like, I'm converting all my stuff into this basket to be good at these certain things. It's like, I want to run triathlons. I'm putting everything into the type 1s. I'm going to look a certain way. I'm going to be so efficient. I'm going to be able to go forever. That sort of thing. But yeah, anyway, that's for me. Let me know what you thought about this. Let me know what your focus is, what fibers I guess you want more of. But any other questions as well, because it is kind of a confusing topic, let me know down below, but I will see you next time.